Today, Vice President Kamala Harris was in Grand Rapids for her Fight for Reproductive Freedoms tour. And I want to take a look at what she had to say to the people of Michigan.
Freedom is fundamental to the promise of America. And what we saw over a year ago is the highest court in our land, the United States Supreme Court, the court of Thurgood and RBG, took a constitutional right that had been recognized from the people of America, from the women of America.
In this speech, Kamala Harris talked about two specific things related to abortion. She talked about freedom a lot. She also talked about suffering. So let's talk for a moment about freedom. Does abortion give women more freedom? Do women have less freedom if they can't kill their child? Well, let's compare this for a moment to a toddler, because the unborn baby has no significant differences between them and the toddler because they're just at different developmental stages. And if we allow a child to grow safely in the womb, soon they'll be a toddler. So let's compare. So if Kamala Harris had said today, well, mothers just aren't going to have the freedoms that they deserve unless they have the freedom to do what they want to their toddlers. So if they would like to take their toddler to the doctor and the doctor is willing to dismember the toddler, then she should have the freedom to do that. Would you support that? I don't think so. The only differences between a toddler and a child in the womb are their size, level of development, environment, and degree of dependency. And none of those things are what give us our humanity. So we know that Vice President Kamala Harris is wrong when she says that abortion is the road to freedom or some basic freedom that all women should have. And even as she spoke and said that nowadays, women my age, we have less rights because Roe versus Wade was struck down. I have less rights than my mother and grandmother. Well, let's think for a moment about the women who did under Roe versus Wade. They had an abortion. They ended the life of their child. Most women who've had an abortion, I just recently looked at something, studying the mental health around abortion, approximately 81% of women who have an abortion experience devastating psychological effects like suicidal thoughts, depression, anxiety, PTSD. So, aside from even the very crucial conversation about the humanity of the unborn, that abortion is always a human rights violation because the unborn are human beings, by taking away a right to abortion, I am also being exempt from lifelong trauma, PTSD, and suffering that come not from being unable to have an abortion, but come from having an abortion. So in striking down Roe versus Wade and in pro-life laws being enacted, and even if we had what Kamala Harris is so afraid of, a national abortion ban, I hope we have one someday so that every unborn child is protected. If we had a national abortion ban and no woman anywhere could have an abortion, children would be protected. That is the right thing to do in the view of human rights. Women's freedom would be unchanged. We would still have the freedom to do what we want with our bodies. Pro-life advocates and pro-life laws are not against women. I'm a young woman of reproductive age myself, and I'm not afraid of an abortion-free world. Kamala Harris wants me to be scared that if there's no abortion, I can't be successful. But I think that's a profoundly anti-woman message to say that without abortion, I can't be equal to men. Without abortion, I can't succeed in my career. Why ever not? What about having a child or giving birth or pregnancy? What about those things takes away my ability to be successful and to live a life that's meaningful? Children don't destroy our future as women. Another thing that Kamala Harris talked a lot about in her speech today was also about suffering and pregnancy. So one thing she said about suffering was that women, because of pro-life laws, are being forced to miscarry their babies into toilets, which isn't true. Pro-life laws don't force women to have miscarriages at their house in the toilet. But do you know what does? Medication abortions. The abortion pill leads to women going through excruciating abdominal pain and cramping and bleeding at home and then delivering a dead child in the toilet. So it's very interesting that Kamala Harris is so disturbed by miscarriages at home, which don't necessarily have to happen. You can go to your obstetrician if you're having a miscarriage and they will help you. You can go to the hospital, the ER, they'll help you with your miscarriage and they will give you excellent care, including if you live in a state with pro-life laws. Pro-life laws do not prevent miscarriage care in any way. It is not a barrier to care. However, Vice President Kamala is, creating this false situation that's actually quite similar to what happens with the abortion pill. Death to children, dead babies in toilets from the abortion pill. That is suffering, Kamala Harris. And without the right to live, no other right can we even act on. So if I'm dismembered in my mother's womb, I can't have the right to own property or something else because I've been violently killed. And I really think our leaders in the state of Michigan are greatly misguided. I find it very sad to look at a table full of women and saying, we're the Michigan women, we represent Michigan women, look at us, we're so pro-abortion, and this is the way to be pro-woman, and this is the only way to have a future. Everybody else who doesn't think like us is just an extremist. No, there are a lot of Michigan women who understand that abortion is a human rights violation because the unborn are human beings, and it is wrong for us to act violently against little ones in the womb. So, Vice President Kamala Harris, I'm a Michigan woman, and I want you to know that I want all unborn children to be protected from the violence of abortion, and your speech today failed to represent thousands, millions of others of women like me. And your speech today failed to advocate for the most oppressed people in our society, the unborn.